Why does life hurt, even when everything seems fine? Why do we feel emptiness in the middle of success, loneliness in a crowd, or longing even in love? Over 2,500 years ago, a young prince named Siddhartha Gautama left behind his palace of pleasures to answer this question. What he discovered beneath the Bodhi tree was so profound, it became a map of the human condition. A map that shows why suffering exists and how it can end. This is not just ancient philosophy. It is your story, my story, our story. Today we'll walk the same path, through pain, craving, freedom, and the way out of suffering. This is Buddha's greatest lesson. Why life hurts, and how you can end it. Imagine this. You wake up one morning, and before you even rise from bed, your mind starts whispering. A worry about money, a memory of someone you've lost, a fear about the future. Life, it seems, does not let us escape discomfort. We chase pleasure and find it fleeting. We avoid pain, but it finds us anyway. From the moment we are born, we are fragile creatures moving through a world that can break us at any moment. This reality isn't new. It was recognized over 2,000 years ago by one of the greatest minds to walk this earth, Siddhartha Gautama, the man we now call the Buddha. The prince who left everything. Buddha's journey begins not in a cave or a temple, but in luxury. He was born a prince, shielded from every form of hardship. His father tried to create a world of eternal spring around him, only beauty, youth, and comfort. But the walls of the palace could not keep out reality forever. One day, Siddhartha left the palace and saw what had been hidden from him. An old man, frail and bent. A sick man tormented by disease. A corpse, lifeless, carried to cremation. And finally, a wandering monk, serene despite owning nothing. These four sights shattered him. For the first time, he understood. Wealth, youth, and health cannot protect us from the truth of life. And that truth is simple. To live is to suffer. The first noble truth: life is suffering. Buddha called this dukkha, a word often translated as suffering, but it's much more than just pain. Dukkha means the deep sense of unsatisfactoriness that runs through human life. Even when things go well, we feel it. The party ends, the holiday is over, love changes, the body ages, and everything we cling to eventually slips away. Think about it. Have you ever achieved something you longed for, only to feel empty soon after? Have you ever been happy, yet deep down afraid of losing that happiness? That is dukkha. It's not just the obvious pains, illness, loss, disappointment. It's also the subtle unease that even pleasure brings, because it never lasts. Why does life hurt? From the smallest frustrations, like traffic, boredom, or rejection, to the biggest tragedies of illness and death, the human condition is full of cracks. Even joy carries a shadow. Laughter fades. Friendships change. Youth slips quietly into age. Every hello has the seed of goodbye. Buddha's insight was radical. He didn't sugarcoat reality. He didn't say, life is mostly fine except for some problems. He looked at life directly and said, this entire human experience is woven with suffering. At first, this sounds dark, even depressing. But Buddha wasn't trying to make us hopeless. He was showing us the truth, because only when we face reality can we transform it. A mirror for the modern mind. Now, pause for a second and look around at our modern world. Technology gives us comfort. Medicine heals diseases. Entertainment distracts us. And yet, anxiety, depression, and stress are everywhere. We scroll endlessly through social media, comparing our lives to others. We shop for things we don't need. We chase goals, convinced that the next achievement will finally make us whole. But the emptiness returns. This is exactly what Buddha saw in his own time, in a simpler world. The conditions change, but the human heart remains the same. The universality of suffering. This is the first lesson of the Buddha. Suffering is universal. No matter your wealth, intelligence, or power, you will experience pain, loss, and disappointment. Kings and beggars alike die. Lovers lose each other. Bodies weaken. Even the stars in the sky burn out. But here's the key. Buddha didn't teach this to depress us. He taught it because denial makes suffering worse. When we expect life to be perfect, every imperfection shocks us. When we believe happiness should be permanent, every ending feels like betrayal. But if we can accept suffering as part of the human condition, we suffer less. Story: The Mustard Seed. There's an old Buddhist story. A woman named Kisa Gotami lost her only child. In unbearable grief, she begged the Buddha for a way to bring her child back to life. The Buddha told her, "Bring me a mustard seed from a household that has never known death." She went door to door, desperate, but every house had its own story of loss. Parents, children, spouses, friends. By the end of her search, she realized no one escapes death. No one escapes suffering. This truth did not erase her pain, but it gave her understanding. And in understanding, her grief softened into wisdom. The doorway to transformation. The first noble truth is not meant to make us despair. It's a doorway. It asks us to stop running, stop denying, stop pretending life is always supposed to be easy. Instead, it invites us to look suffering in the eye and say, "Yes, this is part of being human." And here's the twist. In that very moment of acceptance, we become free. Because once we stop fighting reality, we can begin to transform it. So the Buddha began with honesty. Life hurts, but he didn't stop there. He asked, why does it hurt? Where does this suffering come from? And in the answer to that question lies the root of all human struggle. This is the second noble truth, the heart of Buddha's diagnosis. And that's where we'll go next. The second noble truth, the roots of suffering. If the first noble truth is that life contains suffering, the second noble truth is the answer to why. Why do we suffer? Why is there this constant restlessness, this hunger, this ache that never seems to go away? Buddha's answer was direct and bold. We suffer because of craving. Craving, the endless thirst. In Pali, the Buddha used the word tanha, which literally means thirst. And what a perfect word that is. Think of thirst. It's raw, urgent, and demanding. You can drink, but soon you're thirsty again. And so it is with human desire. We crave pleasure. We crave permanence. We crave recognition. We crave control. And even when we get what we want, the thirst returns. It's like drinking salt water. The more we gulp, the thirstier we become. The trap of attachment. Craving is not just about wanting new things. It's about clinging to what we already have. We cling to people, hoping they will never leave us. We cling to youth, wishing the mirror would stop changing. We cling to success, terrified of failure. We cling to life itself, even as it inevitably slips through our fingers. And when life does what it always does, when things change, when people go, when moments end, we suffer. Buddha put it simply: the tighter we hold, the more it hurts when things fall apart. Story: The Monkey and the Jar. There's a parable that illustrates this. Hunters once trapped monkeys using a jar filled with rice. The opening was just big enough for the monkey to slip its hand inside. The monkey would grab the rice, but once its fist was full, it couldn't pull its hand back out. The monkey could be free at any moment, if only it let go, but it wouldn't. The desire to hold on was stronger than the desire for freedom, and so it was trapped. We humans are much the same. We cling to our desires, our grudges, our illusions, and we suffer for it. The three poisons. Buddha went deeper and described the three root causes of suffering, often called the three poisons. Craving, greed, the endless desire for more. Aversion, hatred, the resistance to what we don't want. Delusion, ignorance, the blindness that keeps us from seeing reality clearly. Picture them as three fires burning within us. Greed says, if only I had this, I'd be happy. Hatred says, if only this wasn't happening, I'd be happy. And ignorance says, I don't need to change, I'm fine as I am. But all three fires burn us. Modern examples of craving. Buddha lived 2,500 years ago, but his diagnosis is more relevant now than ever. Think about it. Craving for wealth. We work endlessly, convinced the next promotion or the next purchase will make us happy. But happiness slips away the moment we get it. Craving for validation. We post pictures, chase likes, and compare ourselves to others. But approval never lasts. Craving for relationships. We expect our partner to fulfill every need, to stay the same forever. But people change. Craving for permanence. We want life to be stable, but change is the only constant. This is why Buddha's truth feels timeless. It's not about ancient India. It's about the human condition itself. The illusion of control. Another source of suffering is the illusion that we are in control. We think, if I just plan enough, earn enough, try hard enough, I can make life unfold exactly the way I want. But reality doesn't bend to our will. People leave, accidents happen, bodies age, storms arrive. When our illusion of control shatters, we feel betrayed. But really, we were never in control to begin with. The chase that never ends. The Buddha compared craving to a man being pierced by an arrow. Instead of pulling out the arrow, he shoots himself with another, then another, believing somehow it will help. That's what craving does. It multiplies suffering. The more we chase, the emptier we feel. Look honestly, have you ever gotten what you thought would change everything, only to realize it didn't? The new phone, the new car, the new relationship. It satisfied for a moment, then left you hungry again. That is the cycle of craving. Why this truth is liberating. At first, the second noble truth sounds bleak. We suffer because we crave. But look deeper. If suffering has a cause, then suffering also has a cure. If craving creates suffering, then letting go can create freedom. It means suffering is not random, not a punishment, not fate. It has a root. And what has a root can be pulled out. A metaphor, the burning house. Imagine being in a burning house and not knowing why it's hot, smoky, unbearable. You panic, thinking this is just the way life is. But then someone points to the fire and says, "That's the cause. Put it out and you'll be free." That's what the Buddha did. He showed us the fire at the root of our suffering, craving, clinging, illusion. And by seeing it clearly, we begin to step toward freedom. So far, we've seen the two great truths. Life is suffering. The cause of suffering is craving and attachment. But the Buddha didn't leave us trapped in despair. He revealed a possibility so radical it changes everything. Suffering can end. And that is the third noble truth, the truth of liberation. The third noble truth, the end of suffering. We have walked through two sobering truths. First, life is marked by suffering. Second, the root of suffering is craving, clinging, and illusion. But Buddha was not a pessimist. He was not pointing at the darkness to depress us. He pointed at the darkness so that we could see the light. And the light is this: suffering can end. This is the third noble truth, perhaps the most hopeful teaching in human history. What nirvana really means? The word the Buddha used is nirvana. In Sanskrit, nirvana literally means to blow out, like a flame being extinguished. But what flame is being extinguished? The flames of greed, hatred, and delusion. The fires of craving that keep us restless. When those fires go out, what remains? Peace, clarity, freedom. Nirvana is not heaven. It is not some faraway paradise reached after death. It is the profound state of freedom, when the mind is no longer enslaved by desire and illusion. It is the cooling of the fire. A taste of liberation. You've probably felt tiny glimpses of it. The moment you finally let go of an argument that had been eating at you. The relief when you forgive someone, releasing the heavy stone from your heart. The peace that comes when you stop trying to control everything, even for just one breath. Those moments are little sparks of nirvana, moments when suffering eases because craving has loosened its grip. Buddha's insight was, this taste of freedom is not random. It can be cultivated, deepened, and made enduring. Story: the traveler and the heavy bag. Imagine a traveler carrying a huge, heavy bag filled with rocks. Every step is exhausting. Finally, a wise guide tells him, the suffering is not from the road, it is from the bag. Put it down. The traveler sets the bag on the ground. Instantly, his suffering ends. That is nirvana. The road of life continues, but the unnecessary burden is gone. The radical freedom of letting go. This is why the third noble truth is so revolutionary. It tells us you don't need to change the world to be free. You don't need to chase endless desires to be whole. You don't need to escape life. You need to see it clearly. Freedom is not about adding more to your life. It's about releasing the chains that bind you. Facing the fear of emptiness. But here's the challenge. Letting go is terrifying. We fear that if we release our desires, there will be nothing left. If we stop clinging to relationships, success, identity, won't we be empty? Buddha's answer is paradoxical. When you let go, you don't fall into emptiness, you fall into fullness. It's like a clenched fist that finally opens to reveal a sky full of stars. We discover that peace, compassion, and wisdom were always within us, waiting under the noise of craving. A modern lens on Nirvana. In today's world, Nirvana may sound abstract, but think about it this way. When you stop chasing the next thing, you suddenly notice the beauty of the present moment. When you stop clinging to what you can't control, anxiety loses its grip. When you let go of anger, your mind becomes light. Your relationships heal. This isn't mystical. It's practical psychology at the deepest level. Buddha was teaching us the mechanics of human suffering and the possibility of release. Is Nirvana permanent? Some ask, is Nirvana permanent happiness? Not exactly. Life will still bring challenges. The body may still feel pain. Loved ones may still pass away. Storms will still come. But the difference is profound. In Nirvana, the mind no longer adds unnecessary suffering on top of reality. The fires of craving no longer consume us. We experience pain without being broken by it. It is like standing in the middle of a storm, yet remaining untouched, because the winds no longer shake your heart. Story: The Two Arrows. Buddha once gave a simple example. When struck by an arrow, we feel pain. That's inevitable. But then most of us shoot ourselves with a second arrow. Why me? This is unfair. I can't bear this. That second arrow is craving and resistance, and it multiplies suffering. The enlightened person feels the first arrow, but not the second. That is the freedom of Nirvana. The third noble truth as hope. The most important thing about this truth is that it is a message of hope. If suffering is built into life, and if craving causes it, then it would be easy to despair. But Buddha tells us, the chain can be broken, the fire can be extinguished, the bag can be put down. This is not just philosophy, it is a promise. But the question remains, how? How do we put down the heavy bag? How do we extinguish the fires? How do we move from suffering to freedom? That is the fourth noble truth, the path to liberation, the map, the method, the way. And that, my friend, is what we'll uncover in the next part of this journey. The fourth noble truth, the way out. So far we have learned life is marked by suffering. The root of suffering is craving and clinging. There is a way to end suffering. Now comes the most practical and empowering part. The fourth noble truth, the path that leads to the end of suffering. This path is called the Noble Eightfold Path. It is not a list of commandments, but a way of living, a set of practices that gradually free the mind and heart. Think of it as Buddha's roadmap to freedom. The middle way. Before we dive into the 8 steps, remember this: Buddha taught the middle way. Not the extremes of indulgence in pleasure, not the extremes of harsh self-denial, but balance, harmony, the path that avoids falling into either side. The Eightfold Path is the middle way in action. The 8 steps to liberation. Let's walk through them, one by one. 1. Right view, seeing clearly. This is the foundation. To walk the path, we must first see reality as it truly is. Right view means understanding the truths of suffering, impermanence, and the possibility of liberation. It's like cleaning the dust from your glasses. Suddenly, the world is clear. Without right view, we are lost in illusions. With it, we can take each step with wisdom. 2. Right intention, the heart's direction. It is not enough to see clearly. We must aim our hearts in the right direction. Right intention means cultivating intentions of compassion, kindness, and letting go, instead of greed, hatred, or ill will. It is like steering a ship. Where your intention points, your life will follow. 3. Right speech, the power of words. Words shape the world. They can heal or they can wound. Right speech means speaking truthfully, kindly, and wisely, avoiding lies, gossip, and harmful speech. When our words align with compassion, we create harmony in ourselves and in others. 4. Right action, living with integrity. Our actions matter. Right action means living in a way that does not cause harm, practicing honesty, nonviolence, respect for life. It is about aligning daily behavior with compassion. Every choice, every act becomes part of the path. 5. Right livelihood, work with purpose. Even how we earn our living matters. Right livelihood means choosing work that does not exploit or harm others, but supports life and dignity. This doesn't mean everyone must become a monk. It means living and working in ways that align with. The path is a circle, not a line. These 8 steps are not a ladder you climb in order. They are more like spokes of a wheel. They support each other. They turn together. Right view supports right intention. Right mindfulness strengthens right effort. Right speech arises naturally from compassion. Walk one and you strengthen the others. The path in modern life. How does this apply to us today, in a world of smartphones, deadlines, and chaos? Right view. Remember that no achievement will give lasting satisfaction. Happiness is inner, not purchased. Right intention. Replace envy with gratitude. Replace anger with patience. Right speech. Speak less, listen more. Use words to lift others, not to crush. Right action. Live with integrity, even when no one is watching. Right livelihood. Seek work that contributes, not just consumes. Right effort. Choose habits that nourish your mind instead of poisoning it. Right mindfulness. Put the phone down. Breathe. Notice life happening now. Right concentration. take time for stillness. Meditation is not escape, it is homecoming. Story: The Musician's String. Buddha once explained the middle way with a story. A musician tunes his instrument. If the string is too tight, it breaks. If it's too loose, it makes no sound. Only when the string is balanced does it play beautiful music. The path is like that string. Not too tight, not too loose. Balanced, alive, harmonious. The Eightfold Path as a way of being. The Eightfold Path is not a religion. It is not a ritual. It is a way of being human wisely. It doesn't ask you to worship. It asks you to live with clarity, compassion, and presence. And when practiced, step by step, day by day, it transforms suffering into wisdom, confusion into clarity, restlessness into peace. So, the Buddha gave us not just diagnosis, not just cause, not just hope, but also a medicine, a path, a practice. The first truth: life has suffering. The second truth: suffering has a cause. The third truth: suffering can end. The fourth truth: there is a path. This is not ancient history. This is the living psychology of freedom. And the path is here, waiting for anyone who dares to walk it.